Hey, Stephanie Ferrari, your Empowered Creativity Coach. Today on the Empowered Creativity Show, I get to introduce you to my friend Maureen Gaspari. She is a WordPress expert and she really does take the stress out of WordPress. I can't wait for you to hear all of her tips, how she got into business, her original business, and man, you need to get in touch with her. She is amazing and she can help you get your WordPress website and blog set up and running and get you on your way to monetizing your blog as well so that you can build a business that you love, sharing your message with those who need it. Hey, it's Stephanie Ferrari, your Empowered Creativity Coach. Welcome to the Empowered Creativity Show. As a project manager in the corporate world, I grew to a point where I knew that I was born for more and I needed to get out. After an accident in 2017, I had my chance. As a Christ-centered business coach, I help women in the early stages of their coaching practice build group coaching programs and online courses for increased profit and impact. Well, hey, Maureen, thank you so much for joining me on the Empowered Creativity Show today. Why don't you introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about what you do and who you serve.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to talk with you. So my name's Maureen, and I help new and growing female entrepreneurs build a profitable blogging business on WordPress without the stress. And I do this so that they can turn their passion into profits and make an impact. So getting this whole journey, it's kind of been a very interesting journey. I like to say it started with a boy and a big challenge and a blog. So my journey actually started way back in 2014, and I didn't really know what I wanted to do with my life. You know, I always thought I was made for more, was working in the corporate world and doing event planning. I got my master's. I thought, okay, I know what I want to do, but I always had that entrepreneurial spirit. My parents were entrepreneurs, so I always knew I wanted to pursue entrepreneurship, but it just was never the right timing. And then I had my son actually in 2010, I had my son, and it flipped my world upside down. I love being a mom, but in 2013, we found out that he had selective mutism, which is a childhood anxiety disorder characterized by the inability to speak in certain situations. So he could speak at home where he felt comfortable, but when someone spoke to him or when he was at school, he just could not speak because of anxiety. So I kind of threw away all my thoughts of entrepreneurship and I just focused on helping him for the next few years. And in 2014, I decided that I would kind of start a blog online, just a personal blog. I wasn't sharing it with anyone. I just wanted to kind of write down what was going on. It was such a crazy kind of dark time in our lives. And I just wanted to write it down so I could have a record of what we were doing and it would help the doctor out a little bit more. And so I started to just write everything down, and I was in some parenting groups for kids with anxiety and things like that. And they were asking some questions. And so I reluctantly decided that I would kind of share my story a little bit. I really didn't want to. I'm a really private person. And I thought, okay, let me just share some of this and see what happens. And the response was like amazing. Like people started reaching out to me. They wanted to know more about how we were helping our son with selective mutism. And he had some sensory challenges. So I was talking a lot about that. And so fast forward to 2016, my son had become verbal in all areas and he was doing great. And I decided, okay, now's the time where I can really start turning our mess into a message for other people. And I tried a lot of platforms, but I ended up on WordPress, which turned out to be the best decision. And I grew this blog more into a business where I stopped talking about my personal story and started helping other parents with anxiety. And it grew into I started doing digital products and courses, and I had a best-selling journal on Amazon for kids with anxiety, and it kind of snowballed from there. So that is how I started, kind of long story short. And recently, in the past year, I decided I was going to start helping other families, moms and other females who had a message that they wanted to share, and teach them how to do the same thing I did with their knowledge. And so that's how the creative impact came to be. I had been helping a lot of moms kind of on the side do what I did, but now I decided to turn it into a business. So that is how I got to where I am today. So I still have that other business, and then I'm running this one as well.
That's fantastic. I love how you just used your own experience, and it, like, you didn't set out specifically to make a business out of it. But you saw how much it was helping others and just let it go. Like let it keep doing what it was doing and what you were doing, and sharing your message. And that's what I think that's what this is all about. I think that's what what kind of our mission as entrepreneurs really is to encourage others and help others. And so, for some it may be products, for others it's courses, for others it's Facebook groups and group programs, and others it's coaching and everything. And so you kind of turned your coaching business, you started coaching other parents, really.
Yeah. Yeah, I started getting lots of questions about it, and it kind of just it's interesting, like where you start from, and then how like God takes you and leads you to where you are now. It's interesting. Yeah.
Right. Well, so you mentioned that you kind of when you decided you were going to do a blog, you ended up on WordPress. So tell us about that, and really that decision time of, do I use this platform, that platform, what platform do I use? How do I get started in this, in creating this? So how did you make that decision? What were the things about WordPress that stood out to you that said, that's the one I'm going to go with?
Sure. Well, it wasn't like a real clear decision. I did a lot of trial and error. So I think I've tried them all. I started with Blogger, which is very basic. And when I started, I had no idea what I was doing. So I started there. I tried out Squarespace. I tried WordPress.com, not knowing that there's a difference between WordPress.com, WordPress.org. And then eventually after reading a lot more and really researching things, I stumbled upon WordPress.org and realized that you could really grow your business from that. Like, it's kind of like a one-stop shop where you can start here and grow it. There is a little bit more of a learning curve, but it's, once you have the knowledge, it's really quite, simple. You can work with it. But I really liked that with WordPress, you have full control and like 100% ownership of your content and everything, because it's a self-hosted platform. So that just means you have to have your own hosting, but that gives you control of your content. Where if you use Squarespace or like WordPress.com, it's a hosted site, which means that they host it for you, and they kind of have a say if you're putting stuff on there that they don't want on there, or they can shut down at any time and they have your content. So that was a big plus to me about WordPress. And WordPress is really customizable. I mean, they have thousands of free and paid themes and plugins that you can work with. And if you decide one day you want to put a shop on your site, you can grow with it and change, and it's very adaptable. WordPress ranks really well in search engines because there's a lot of optimization for SEO, which is search engine optimization. There's like plugins and tools that help you rank higher on and like a search engine. So I really like that. That's helped me a lot with my parenting blog. And it's also free software. You do have to pay for hosting. So a lot of people are like, it's not really free because you're still paying. You are paying for the hosting, which is really minimal. It can be about $3 to $5 a month, but the platform itself is completely free. So if you're using a Squarespace and you don't want a Squarespace branded blog, which if you're building a business, you don't, it's not going to be free. So if you don't want like the creative impact at squarespace.com, you have to pay. It's like, I think it starts at $12 a month to have that branded site. So it is going to be a little more expensive than WordPress. So think those are pretty much my top 4 reasons why I went with them, and I've been with them ever since. So.
And I think one of the big things, and you mentioned this a little bit, I've been blogging for a really long time too, and I started with Blog Space. I think Blogspot, that's what it was.
Blogspot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think the one big thing that people don't realize, especially if in the long run you really do intend on monetizing your blog in some way, whether that's putting ads on it and doing an affiliate marketing, or creating your own products and selling them, you can't do that unless you're on the wordpress.org site. You can't do that on some of those free blogging sites. You're not allowed to monetize it. And so if in the long run you really do want it to become a business, then you need to start on the right platform that will allow you to do that. Can you tell us a little bit more maybe, I don't know if there is more to it, but any more to it around that difference? Because it can be confusing when you've got WordPress.com and then WordPress.org.
Yeah, so with WordPress.com, you're very limited to what you can do. You can't, like you said, you can't sell on it. And I've helped people transfer their blog from one to another, and it's not always a seamless process. So that's why I recommend starting in one place, so you're not taking all your content and moving it from place to place. Like if you start with WordPress, you can build it from the ground up. Whether you start out wanting it to be a business or not, you're able to then take it and monetize it if you do want down the road.
One of the things that I run into with some of my clients and trying to figure that out, and where do they go? What do they do? What's the platform that they use? And we talk about WordPress and they're like, well, I don't even know how to do it. And to me, it's like super simple to get it installed, whether you do your hosting through Bluehost or GoDaddy or HostGator, whatever it is, whichever hosting site you go through to purchase your URL and do your hosting, they all have like the button install WordPress. It's like super simple. and then you get into learning how to use it, and that's where you come in, because you've got a course that you offer, WordPress 101, that really can help people get started, put the right plugins in place. And can you explain a little bit about what plugins are for those who haven't gone that route, or they're using some other platform that doesn't have that type of functionality?
Sure. So yeah, and I want to mention that I just recently did this. I have a free blogging business bootcamp e-course that kind of takes you through that setup from the beginning of WordPress. Like it walks you through each step and kind of like builds that foundation. And then yes, I do have that course that kind of gets into, okay, now that I have WordPress, what the heck do I do with it? And yeah, we go over plugins, and a plugin is basically like, I like to say it's like a piece of code that is like plugged into your site to help you be able to do things without having to hand code anything. So I'm trying to think of a good example of one. Like there's so many plugins, why am I blanking? Like Pretty Links is one, and it just helps you change like a really long ugly link into like a really nice simple one for you. And without a plugin, you'd have to have someone hand code how to do that. But a plugin, you can just download it from your site and just click, like you literally click install and then activate, and then it's on your site and ready to use.
Yeah, thinking of some of the big ones that some of the main ones I think that I use on my site, like Yoast SEO, so that you've got the right place to put keywords, and really what that is making sure that your blog can be found, right? Mm-hmm. If somebody is searching on Google or anywhere, and that your blog can be found because you're putting the right things in place on the back end. It's not stuff that's seen on the front end. And then also, that your site, when you show up in that search bar, like you can control what it looks like when you show up. So I know that's one big one that I've used for years and years and years. One that I recently installed is Social Warfare. And so that one, it helps with what does it look like when somebody goes and shares your blog on Facebook, on Pinterest, on LinkedIn. You can control that by what you put in Social Warfare, because you can control the description and the picture that's shown. and all of that. So I know those are my two like favorite, like must-have type of
Yes.
of plugins. And there's so many others that I have on my site, but those two, and then I use Elementor, which is just a way of being able to edit and design your site. So it's a plugin that goes in and kind of replaces the native designer within WordPress. So I guess that's my
Absolutely.
top three.
There's some really good ones. I list in, I think I have like a top 10 or 15 that I use on mine that I include. And I have a Pinterest one to optimize your images so they load quicker. And then they have a really good security one called Wordfence that I recommend for people. Wordfence is my security one. So yeah, it can be really useful. You can have too many plugins on your site. You don't want to load your whole site with plugins, but there are some really great ones that you definitely want to have for sure.
And I know if that sounds like way technical, you haven't even thought about a website yet. Like it's okay. Just come back once you've got WordPress installed, and and it'll make sense. And I'll make sure that we drop the link to your free boot camp as well in the show notes, so that those people who are just getting started have a way to really speed through that process of getting it up and running and getting the right things put in place from the get-go.
Definitely. I wanted to take out that intimidation because I know it can be intimidating starting on a new platform. So it just walks you through and gets you ready so that once everything's set up, you kind of have the knowledge to move forward with your blog and customizing it.
Right. So when it comes to creating a blog and getting your message out there and creating your website, what are the top things that you say, like, these are must-haves on every website? Like, if you're going to have a website, you need to make sure you have these 3 or 4 things on it, or else, like, you're losing out somehow. like you're, whatever that is, like, what are like those core things? Because we can have thousands of pages on our website if we want to, but that's really not what's necessary, right? And so even that part can be intimidating. So what are just those main things that we need to make sure we include on our websites?
Well, you definitely want let me start with this. So I like to put like about 4 things on my navigation bar. I like an about section so people can know your story. I like a blog on there, obviously, so that you can share your content because that's how you're going to get traffic to your site. I like to have a work with me page where they can find out how they can work with you further. And then just a contact section. And I like to put that up at the top because a lot of times people have questions and they have to hunt around for the contact box. So I usually, when I'm designing a site, I have an about me page, the blog, the like a work with me or a services page, and then the contact. Another thing that's super important is your opt-in. So you want to make sure that you have a freebie of some type because your email list it's your business. This is how you're going to talk to people, get ideas. You want to grow and nurture this list, and they're going to be your biggest resource for coming up with product ideas. So I remember with my parenting blog, I had like a resource library for parents who just needed those resources, and I got them on my list, and then I would kind of nurture them, help them along, provide a lot of value. And then when I was getting ready to come up with a course idea, I could reach out to them, get ideas for them, listen to them, and then they become your best customers. So it's really important to have like a freebie and make it seen very clearly in multiple places on your website. I usually put a button in the navigation bar, and then I usually have one before the fold, like before you would scroll up on your page. So that is super important. What else? I think not so much as like what has to be on your site, but I think one of the things people have to remember is you have to be consistent with is in regards to blogging, and you have to be consistent with putting out content on your site because blogging is a long game. It's not something that's going to be like quick and easy money, and I think a lot of people give up before they really have a chance to see that gradual increase in like momentum. So I think that's a big thing when you have this blog on your site. You want to make sure that you're consistently adding content, and that you don't give up. Because I think for my first year, you know, it's kind of like starts out like this. For the first year, you're not really making any profit, and then it's kind of up and down, like some good days, some bad days, some good days before it really takes off. So I think that's something people need to remember with their website. Like it may look great, but if you're not consistently adding content and working on driving traffic to it, then it's not going to go that far.
Yeah, and that's really important. I know that's one of the things that that I think every new business owner, you know, who is using a blog, I think that is the one area that I see frequent struggle in. And I know that's been me, you know, is that consistency and actually posting blog posts. I've become way more consistent since I started the Empowered Creativity Show, because that becomes my blog post.
Exactly.
And so that definitely has made it easier on me. But even for me, you know, trying to just remember that, like, I need to create those other types of blog posts that aren't these interviews, that are delivering other type of value, other type of content, that is, you know, some encouraging and motivational type of content, other teaching type of content around what I do. And so when it comes to like what needs to be on the blog, I know that a lot of people really kind of stumble in that, or they, you know, they have a few ideas and then it's like it runs dry. Right?
Exactly. Like it is. I find a lot of my ideas in my Facebook groups, like especially with the parenting one, I would see what people were asking, what questions they were asking, and like write them down. I have a notebook, I put everything in there. And that's kind of how I come up with my ideas. But content is, I think that's it's one of the hardest parts, because it takes time. It's very time consuming. And I do recommend to my students, like, your blog doesn't have to be just a written out blog. It can be in the form of like a video, and you can have it transcribed. So no matter if your reader likes to read it or they want to listen to it, there's different options. Because I know it's hard for a lot of people to just sit down and write if they're not really a writer, you know?
For me, a lot of my content that and blog posts that aren't from the Empowered Creativity Show, they aren't these interviews, have started from a Facebook Live that I did, or another training video that I did in my coaching group, or, you know, even taking some of my course material and looking at that and saying, okay, that standalone would make a great blog post. So we have to look for other ideas. And you know, you said you have a notebook of ideas. I keep a Trello board where when I have that moment, I go and just it might be just like a headline that ends up in there, or it's a picture of something that sparked an idea. And so I go and put that picture in there and hope that when I go back to it, I'll have the same idea, right? I'll put a few things to help spark that inspiration again. But I think that's the key, is just always be on the lookout for, like you said, the questions in your Facebook group or in other groups that you participate in. So those questions that come up are great material for you. And so don't be hesitant. And you don't have to be like 3,000 words, right? You know, it could be a 500 word blog post. It could be 1,000 word blog post. It could be somewhere in the middle. And I think while there are suggestions, right, on what it should be and what Google likes better from an SEO perspective and things like that, I think for your audience personally, like once you have an established audience, I think just the consistency, whether it's a short blog post or a long blog post, just that you have something is better than trying to meet some word count or really, you know, make sure that you hit those standards. That's my personal opinion.
Yeah, no, exactly. I think there's different types of blog posts for different things. So there are those pillar posts that you want to have on your site. I actually just wrote a post about this where it's like, there are some more detailed posts that like lay a foundation, like an ultimate guide or a beginner's guide to kind of lay a foundation. And they're the longer ones. But then you could have, there's posts that are going to generate affiliate income, so they can be shorter and more like reviews, or you can just have like, if you're just answering a question. So yeah, it just depends on the type of blog post you're writing, but you're right. Consistency, it's better to have a 500 word blog post than to have nothing. So, or a video, just try to stay consistent. I think that's the biggest struggle for most people, but I think people think that you're right, they have to create this massive thing, and it doesn't have to be that way.
Yeah, you can give yourself a whole lot of grace when it comes to what you actually, or how long it is. And really the key is that it's good content. It's something that they can take action on, that really doesn't inform or encourage. And it doesn't have to be that there's some major action, like it's a step-by-step tutorial,
right?
But that it's definitely useful. It's beneficial. It's not fluff. It's not like, oh, I don't even, like, by the time they get to the end, it's like, oh, they just put something out there, like it didn't even mean anything. You've got to make sure that you're doing something that has meaning, and that is useful. That's true. For sure.
Right. Exactly. And if you can, you want to make sure with each post you're putting in some call to action, or like a content upgrade where they can get on your list if they're not already on your list, so that you can be growing that list. So yeah.
And let's talk a little bit about those content upgrades, because I know even that can sound intimidating, that, oh man, every blog post, and just to define content upgrade, it's basically, here, I've given you like an introduction to this idea. If you want to go a little bit deeper, here, get this free worksheet, this checklist, this something that goes with it.
Right.
And I think that can even sound intimidating, because I know there are some people out there who almost every blog post has some new thing that they have created. And it does not have to be that. Like, no. when you mentioned pillar content. So when you know that you've got specific, you have what you're going to talk about. You have your focus, your main ideas, and there might be 3, there might be 5 areas of content that you can address that all relate back to what you do in your business. And I think the key there is to have, whether it's 1 or a handful, maybe 3, of those freebies that you can tie into any of those 5 pillars, right? That, or, if you're always writing. So for me, like, I can write about niche, I can write about branding, creating your course. And then I also do some posts that are what I've heard from God. They're more of a prophetic type of word, and it's what I've heard from God. And so those, like, my content upgrade on those is my Letting God Lead 5-day devotional. And so, but then if I'm talking about branding, then it's my brand building cheat sheet. And these have developed over time. So like, if I'm talking about niche, then I've got my niche quick start guide or my masterclass. So there's always something. And so it doesn't have to be that you're creating something brand new every time. Right. Though you can, if that's your specialty, if that's something that you enjoy and you love doing it, go for it.
But it can get a little overwhelming. You only want, like, I would not suggest making a content upgrade a different one for every single piece of content. Right. Like, you have your main freebie, and that's like, when I say a call to action, like, you could just have that main freebie on lots of different blog posts. But if you have something that would work well, it's also a good way to segment your email list. If you're, like you said, like, if you're doing a couple of different things, like, if they opt in for this niche thing, then you could tag them. This is getting a little into email marketing, but you could tag them so that those people are interested in that, and it can help you segment your list. But yeah, you don't want 100 different freebies going at the same time. It's just too crazy. So you have your main one, and then maybe a content upgrade here or there that kind of ties everything in, I think would be a good idea.
Yeah. So. And I think the key is just, it doesn't have to be that direct tie-in. It doesn't have to be, when you're putting that within your blog post, it can just almost be like a little ad in there, but it's something that can take them further with you. And I think that's the key, is that, like, it's just taking them further and giving them an opportunity to work with you in a different way, and for you to provide more value for them. That's the key for it.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, this has been great. Can you tell us just a little bit about how we can get in contact with you, how we can stay in touch with you, where we can follow you?
Sure. So my website is thecreativeimpact.com, and my blogging business e-course is thecreativeimpact.com/free course. And then you can, I'm on Pinterest and I'm on Facebook. You can probably just search The Creative Impact. I'll come up because they kind of have long URLs right now. So
And
you
I'll
can
make
search
sure that I
those.
definitely link those for you.
Yeah. So yeah, that's where I am right now. And yeah, I'd love to connect with you. So.
Well, very good. Thank you so much, Maureen, for all of this information. It really was a gold mine of information.
Oh, and thank you so much for having me on. I've had a great time.
Well, thank you so much for taking time to listen in today. The Empowered Creativity Show is my way of sharing other people's businesses with you, their messages, their stories, because that is what is really at the heart of this show for me, is for you to be able to be encouraged by other businesswomen who have fought the fight. They've made it through that catalyst moment, that moment in time when they realized now is my time. And I want to encourage you, because now is your time. Now is the best time to start your own business. Women business owners, women entrepreneurs are running the gamut. I mean, every type of business you can imagine. The number of businesses being opened today by women is just phenomenal. It's so encouraging to me, and I hope it's encouraging to you to realize that now is your time. If you have been one of those who has been just thinking about it, you have been dreaming about your own business, you know that you can help others. People ask you questions all the time. You are the go-to person for some very specific knowledge and some very specific coaching you already provide. And now is your time to start your business and to coach others and to get paid well for it. Because I'm going to tell you, that is when, like, the biggest myth that we have to overcome as business owners, when we decide, like, we have to get to the realization that people will pay us for what we know and how we can help them. If we can help them get past some roadblocks way faster and get their own things started faster, to heal faster, whatever that may be for you in how you coach people, they want the fast track. And so coaches is how that happens. So if you know that right now is your time, you're ready, you're done waiting, you're done like putting it off, it is your time, then I invite you to join LEAD, my 6-month group coaching program. During that 6 months together, you will develop some really strong foundations, the strong foundations that you need for your business long term. Not the quick fix, not the get started quick, not the make the money in a day thing, okay? Everybody wants that, but that's just not reality. And you have to have strong foundations in your business, or you will not survive. You will get burnout. And I don't want that for you. We don't want your business to be just some quick fix thing. We want it to be long-term. You want it to be long-term. So I invite you to join LEAD. You will get the foundations that you need from website, like we talked about today, all the way through creating your signature group coaching program. You'll be able to translate that into whatever type of program you want it to be, whether that's a live group coaching program or an online course or challenges, whatever that is. LEAD is here to help you. Okay, I'm here to help you. And I do it through my group coaching program, LEAD. I invite you to join at empoweredcreativitycoach.com/lead.